everyone and welcome back to my channel. This video is my review for the 7th episode of the final season of The 100, titled The Queen's Gambit, referencing the never-ending chess game that Rosetta and Murphy had. First of all, sorry that this video is so late, but back to the review. This was a really character-centric episode, but at least it had a few big, actually huge things happen at the end that moved the plot forward. We finally learned who the Shepard is. The plot of the episode was that Emori was preparing for Reunification Day, where she would reunite the children of Gabriel with their parents. However, she needed Murphy to be there, but he was preoccupied in a long chess match against Shepard. Meanwhile, on Bardo, Gabriel formed a connection with Anders, and meanwhile, Hope reunited with Diyoza and Octavia with Echo. Now, once again, I'll go through what happened on the separate planets. So let's start off with Sanctum. On Sanctum, we started off with Emori waking up, and Emori was getting ready for Reunification Day. I liked how Murphy mentioned that she was enjoying the power she had, and as we saw throughout the episode, this actually meant a lot to her because she used to be the one that was cast away and seen as a freak, and now she's the one running everything. Unfortunately, all of this fell apart later on for her. So Emori told Murphy that he had to go give Shepard his daily snack because Indra trusted him to do that. And then we found out that Indra left. This actually surprised me and disappointed me. It was like a few episodes ago where the episode started off and suddenly Clark and her friends had found the disciple's body. Now we went from Indra becoming the new commander of one crew to leaving Sanctum so she can go find Clark's group. Although what makes this interesting is that she doesn't know that her daughter's not with them. But last episode I was so happy about where the Sanctum story was going with Indra versus Shepard, and now it disappointed me. The whole start of the episode seemed way too positive, which showed that something was going to go wrong. In the next scene, we had something that was actually really strange but important for the show, as Jackson and Maddie had a therapy session. All the characters in the show have been through so much, they really do need to see a therapist. But since when does Jackson specialize in mental health? That came out of nowhere, and that makes me like him less than I already do, because then there have been so many other times when he would have been useful, but he just decided not to do anything. Anyway, Maddie was drawing the past commander's memories again. This time it looked like it was the anomaly stone opening up, similarly to when Bellamy died. Jackson told Maddie that she was too young to have the responsibility of being commander, and Bellamy and Indra shouldn't have put her in that position. That part I actually liked because they're finally starting to point out the problem that the show has had with putting these kids in danger, like Maddie, Lexa, Luna, and all the other kids that were gonna be commander. Then Jackson let her go and play soccer with the other kids that she met last episode because apparently she has always wanted to play but wasn't allowed to. Honestly, this would be a good ending to Maddie's story. Finally getting to be a kid and hopefully having a better future, but due to her drawings of the anomaly, she's probably going to come back into the main storyline. Or as other people have said, maybe she'll turn out to be the key instead of Clark. Jackson also tried to have a therapy session with Emori when she asked him for help with doing DNA tests for the cogs so that she could find her parents for Reunification Day. Murphy had also tried to stop her, but both of them failed because, as we learned, this means a lot to her because she was once in the same position as the cogs, which is what she told Nelson when she tried to talk to him at the bar. Although she was called Frekrena and not a null, she was still treated as an outcast for something that she couldn't help. Nelson ignored her, but Emori was still able to get DNA. Before this, Nelson had been talking to Nikki, and I was kinda confused whether they actually made a deal. Also, like Nikki pointed out, I don't understand why Nelson is still trying to fight against one crew, now that the primes are all gone, which is what he wanted. Although I guess that's why he follows Shepard since he killed Russell for him. Meanwhile, Murphy went to give Shepard his snack, and the annoying Sanctum girl was waiting at the door and offered to do it instead. Of course he's not going to let her in. I can't stand her. However, even though she didn't go in, she was still able to place a note inside the cookie. Shepard really loves his cookies, and the note told him that Reunification Day was that day, so then he was able to set his plan in motion for the downfall of Daniel and Haley Prime. Shepard ate the note and told Murphy that he had realized that Murphy knew he was Shepard because of his fear for him. Then he invited Murphy to play chess with and said that if he lost, people would die. Since Shepard told Murphy that he would give him the opportunity to be a hero, I was afraid that Murphy would turn to Shepard's side considering that he's always cared about his own survival, like last season when he joined Russell. But as of right now, he didn't join Shepard, which is good development for him. They also brought up Lexa, which I loved. Murphy said that she was the favorite Hedda. He's definitely right, but this angered Shepard, who still sees Lexa as weak for allowing herself to fall in love, which was her downfall, and he finally brought up the connection between them, since they were both killed by their Flamekeepers, although it was under different circumstances. I'm still confused on how much time passed between Shepard's reign and Lexa's time as Hedda, considering Indra was around at the same time as Shepard. Was Lexa the commander right after Shepard? At the palace, Emori held her reunification ceremony and brought the families of the cogs back together. Nelson showed up and got to meet his parents. His mom was so happy to see him, but his dad didn't want to do this without Daniel Prime's blessing because he still saw Nelson as an abomination. I don't really understand, because for Nelson to have red blood, wouldn't they also need to have it? So aren't they also abominations? He tried to choke Nelson and Nelson stabbed him. Shehera knew that this would happen because for people like Nelson's dad, it wasn't enough to have Haley there. She had always been too weak, so they needed Daniel, which is why Shehera distracted him with a chess game. Once Murphy realized what was going on, Rosetta attacked him. Since Nelson's dad died, the reunification event fell apart and Nikki came in shooting up the place, and she finally joined in with Nelson and Shehera. Now on to Bardo. Gabriel was taken into custody by the disciples, of course, but then he was released and taken to see Anders. He asked them not to hurt his friends, but like Anders said, why would they see him as a friend when he betrayed them? I was kinda confused how they knew who Gabriel was because Levitt had only seen up to season 3 in Octavia's memories, but I forgot they had that other guy look at her memories before Echo killed him. We also learned that the disciples don't believe in hell. What they want to do is transcend, which kinda reminds me of the stupid cult in Riverdale, but it also reminds me of the City of Light. It looks like Orlando did kill himself and he wasn't the Shepard, like some theories said, because Anders had his body there for Gabriel to say goodbye to, although we didn't see the face, but there's not much of a need for him anymore. Anders wanted Gabriel's help with studying the anomaly because he believed they would be able to find its true power by combining their knowledge. The interesting part here is that they studied it for thousands of years, but as we see at the end, they haven't been here for that long, unless there's more time dilation that we don't know of. We also learned once again that Orlando was a liar and didn't tell them everything about Bardo, which once again makes me think that he was a spy. Speaking of spies, we finally got the Becco flashback scenes to their time on the Ark, which people said we needed in order to understand their relationship. And honestly, this scene should have been back in season 5. The scene was when Space Crew became Echo's people and her first kiss with Bellamy. The important part here was that Bellamy pointed out that loyalty is Echo's weakness, which we have seen throughout this season and back in season 4. Octavia and Echo were in one cell, while Diyoza and Hope were in another. The moments with Diyoza and Hope were some of the best parts of this episode. They were also really emotional, especially when Hope cried about how her mommy was taken away. Diyoza was disappointed that Hope had turned out just like her because, as we saw before, she wanted to break the cycle of violence that Clark was talking about. They argued over the proper way to escape and had a bit of a fight. Diyoza was also sad that Hope knew she was a terrorist, but Hope said that she didn't see her as the bad guy, and she finally learned about McCrary, and that Diyoza only slept with him to get him on her side. I always thought that they had been more like Bonnie and Clyde or Nicky and Hatch, but then again she did seem to have something for Kane. Even though that was a mistake for Diyoza, it resulted in the best thing that happened to her with Hope. Meanwhile, Octavia helped Echo deal with her pain over Bellamy's death, and they finally bonded, which is what I wanted to see for a while because it shows how much they have grown from back when Echo killed Octavia. I was kinda disappointed we didn't get to see Octavia grieve Bellamy's death, and that she didn't seem to have that big of a reaction, although then again, it has been a while longer for her than it has been for Echo, and last season, her killing Blood Reyna was supposed to show her growth, so she's learned to handle her emotions better. Then Echo ended up giving herself the Esgeta scars. I forgot she was a Nightblood, so when the promo pics came out of this scene, I thought it was just war paint. I was confused how she figured out that the disciples wanted them to join them, but she was right, and now they are going to begin their training. This makes me worried for Echo because I think it's going to lead her to her death. Just this episode, they pointed out how her loyalty is her weakness, and now, if she's going to become loyal to the disciples, I think she might end up dying during the war. We found out that 3 months have passed, so I guess time does go faster on Bardo, which means their training is already done. And Clark and her friends finally arrived on Bardo, which is where we left off with them last episode. They were ready to shoot until they saw Gabriel, who revealed that Bellamy was dead. I'm not sure how I feel about Clark's reaction. Well, I think that she should have yelled and cried like Octavia. I guess it kind of makes sense for her to be in a state of shock. She hasn't been away from him as long as Echo and Octavia. I just wish Raven would have had a chance to react to his death and not just look over at Clark, because she also had a connection with Bellamy. She slept with him and spent 6 years with him in space and became his family. Finally, we got the final scene setting up next week's episode as the theories were finally confirmed. Last episode we found out that the disciples were connected to the Second Dawn, and now Anders went to wake up the Shepard who was in cryosleep this whole time. When he was walking down there so happily, I couldn't help but see him as Damien Dark on Legends of Tomorrow. It reminds me of the Return of the Mac scene. He went to the 13th level and we finally saw that Bill Cadogan is the Shepard. So the show is finally coming full circle. The man who led the Second Dawn cult and burned Becca has been alive this whole time, and now Anders told him that they finally have the key, Clark. I'm really excited to see where this will go. I'm also curious if they always had the idea to connect all of this, because if I remember right, they wrote season 5 as a possible final season, so I wonder if they always planned on bringing Cadogan back into the story. If so, Jason is a genius, although it seemed like fans had already guessed this. I had completely forgotten about him. I remembered the cult, but I didn't remember the leader's name, so I wouldn't have known if I hadn't seen people's theories. I'm also really impressed that they were able to bring back the actor, considering he only appeared for a short scene back in season 4. Overall, I think the episode started off slow and a bit weak, but by the end, it set up the big parts for the rest of the season, and it was directed by Lindsay Morgan, who I think did a great job. I really enjoyed the transitions and parallels between the chess game and what was going on with Emori, Nelson, and Nikki. Also, I thought the emotional scenes on Bardo were great. I was disappointed that Eliza wasn't in the episode that much, but that does have to do with what was going on in her life at the time, and also with the fact that Lindsay Morgan was directing the episode and Raven and Clark were together. I think I would give this episode a 7.5 out of 10. Going forward into the season, there are 2 things from this episode which might have just been throwaway lines that really intrigued me. The first was that Nikki mentioned that Emori had a glow to her, so this could be saying that Emori is pregnant. That would explain why they have had Murphy rescue kids this season to set him up as a father and giving him and Emori the responsibility of taking care of someone other than themselves. Also, I'm curious if the end of the series will have anything to do with the afterlife. They kept bringing up hell throughout this episode, and in the beginning of the series, we had so many characters dying, but now Cadogan and our main characters have escaped death for a long time, and some of the characters like Sheheta and Murphy fear death. But eventually it will have to catch up with them, and when it does, where will they go? The concept of the afterlife has already been a part of the show before with the City of Light, so I'm really interested in this. I'm also really excited for the Backdoor pilot next episode. I think it's the most excited I've been for an episode in a long time. I was really skeptical about the spinoff when they first announced it, but now I'm really interested in the story with Cadogan and his kids, and the promo they released looks amazing. Well, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for similar content. I do reviews for the show along with Stargirl. Leave your thoughts in the comments and have a good day. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.